Go.
Hi, thanks for joining us tonight. This is our very first webinar, and thank you very, very much for participating. I'd like to thank Riga Business School for hosting us and this great facility and the great broadcast equipment. I'd like to thank Paula Elksney for coordinating all this for us. I appreciate it very, very much. And it'll be myself, Bill Schaub, and I'll be joined by Ieva Āboliņa from ERKER Real Estate here in Riga, and by Gunta Martemjanova, who works with me at Movin. So with that, I'd like to start. Is now the right time to buy? And if you don't mind, I've got a bit of a presentation to share with you. That one. Where did my presentation go? Stop that sharing. And we'll go try it again. Oh my goodness, where did it go? I killed it somehow. Maybe we need to restore this somehow. Ah, how's that? Is that visible?
No, you have to share it. I don't think you're sharing.
I'm not sharing right now? Okay. That's... Okay. Okay. How's that? Okay. All right. And of course, our topic is the right time to buy. And the answer, I think most of history is yes, always. Yes, because it is almost always the right time to buy. Unless it's 2007, 2008, it's the right time to buy. Yes, because real estate assets and real assets in general are perceived to be safer than financial assets in an inflationary period, which we are in. Yes, because Latvia as a group are under-leveraged, and I'll show you some of those facts now. This is the latest, just a month ago, the European Mortgage Federation put out the Hippostat data, and I wanted to show you where Latvia stacks up right now. There's in Estonia 8.6 billion euros of mortgages outstanding, in Lithuania 9.1 billion, and in Latvia 4.1 billion. And that should concern you because it's essentially the same bank serving those communities. The annual change in those balances, 537 in Estonia, 717 million in Lithuania, 1 million net change here last year in 2020. These are 2020 numbers. Representative rates, 2.48 in Estonia, 2.33 in Lithuania, 2.62 in Latvia. Residential loans to gross domestic product, 31.9, 18.7, and 14.2. And maybe the most important statistic, income as loan amounts outstanding, as a percentage of income. 55.8 in Estonia, 27.9 in Lithuania, 22.6 in Latvia. Latvia is historically one of the least leveraged countries since the financial crisis. All right, it's that one number needs on a broad level, Latvia needs a lot more homeowners, and people have to take that chance. And I'm going to tell you, it's not that big a chance. Real estate actually is an efficient market, and I would encourage people not to be afraid. Very often I hear people don't want to buy because they may get an opportunity overseas. Don't let that slow you down. If you go to movin.lv, our website, there's a very good article on rent or buy. Look at it. Again, it's almost always true that it's a good time to buy, and real estate in general is a good investment too. So I would recommend that people get on what the Brits refer to as the housing ladder, and get on it because it's never going to be easier. With the macro number at 22.6, way less than half the Estonian number. Your opportunity to leverage should get better and better. Now, why is that though? How could this be? And I'll show you what our own central bank here in Latvia has. You look at 2020, 2019, and the credit standards, which are the black lines, versus the loan demand, which are the blue lines. You can kind of see credit standards tightened dramatically because of the COVID virus. And because the banks feared, and then it actually wound up working itself through to be accurate, there were many industries that viciously attacked. And a lot of the participants in that industry got credit shut off from them. And so it was a very difficult year to borrow last year. And the truth is, with us bouncing around with COVID and each and every strain, it's still difficult to get money. So again, we take care of a lot of people that had been turned down initially at the bank. And I would recommend, again, keep trying. The banks are lending. Actually, some of the banks in October had a record month, never lent as much as they did recently. But if it's not getting to you, start thinking about the professionals you work with. All right, and I'm going to move now to exactly that point, and that is really how to buy real estate. Not whether you should, but actually how should you. And I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, buying a piece of real estate is not one thing. It's actually a journey. It has a lot of information, a lot of data that needs to be turned into information and useful information. And you're going to make decisions. I'm going to tell you that in my career, we've absolutely always sat down and known that when our customers are there, this is the biggest decision of their life from a financial perspective. It's the biggest asset they'll own. It's the biggest obligation they'll ever take on as far as a financial obligation. So that whole process is actually a journey that most people start right in their living room, doing some homework, and trying to get all the information and data they think they need. And again, I'm going to recommend that if you come to movin.lv, you'll see our resource center has articles, it has calculators, it has reports from the central bank, it has reports from real estate firms. It'll support and give you a lot of information. And with that information, I'm always going to recommend work with a professional so that you understand the information. And you work with somebody who's been working with that information, that data, for a while and has a good grasp on it, can help you. And again, I would say that working alone in your home with all that information and data, when you work with people in the marketplace, then you actually are sourcing everything the marketplace has to offer for you. Because of course there's a bunch of information. And there's some information only those of us in the lending or real estate industry have access to, or normally would have access to. And you should have it. You should be working with somebody who has access to that. But to improve your results, you're going to always want to work with somebody who understands it and can apply it to your situation. And I'll give you some examples. Besides those things I mentioned before, there's valuation websites that you can link to right from our website. But it takes a little screening to understand it. And again, even the listing tools here in the marketplace have a lot of screening and filtering opportunities. But understanding the results and what could be behind the results is important. You really need to, I think, work with professionals to make sure you're asking all the right questions and making sure you're seeing what the information is behind the information, behind the data that you're looking at. So our recommendation is really just work with people. And to be honest with you, we think for the best results, you should absolutely insist on a collaborative team helping you get to where you want to be. And that team formation is obviously important. We work with a lot of real estate firms. You're going to meet one of the professionals we've worked with for quite a while. And it's not unusual in this journey, especially the customer journey, to start this journey in a variety of places. You might want to start with articles. You might want to start with calculators against your income or against your savings. You might want to start with getting a pre-approval and understanding your capacity to borrow. All of those happen every day, several times a day. So people enter this journey at all different places, gathering the information they think they need. And at some point, if you get into our system with a pre-approval, you're going to have get the benefit of outreach from one of our professionals who will work with you on what you want to do going forward. And a surprising number of people, because this is where they enter the process, need help finding real estate. They don't have it done yet. And so working with the real estate community is just a natural thing for us. Funny enough, the real estate community gives us opportunities. We turn around and give them opportunities right back, depending on where you enter the customer journey. It's not that unusual to start the customer journey by looking at apartments first, picking a realtor and going and working with somebody, or finding somebody who's got a lot of good listings and trying to figure out what's best for you. So again, it doesn't matter to us where you enter the customer journey. The customer journey has a lot of pieces to it. Take it seriously, gather as much information as you can. Like I said, our platform is trying to put together all the things we think people need. We actually have a list of a lot more things we want to add to it, but we have it there, a good place to start with a lot of information. So I would sincerely recommend that you start that process in a thoughtful way and get ready to make the big decisions you're going to make, because we know they're big decisions for you. They're big decisions for almost everybody. I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. We're a mortgage broker and we have a lending license. We mostly broker. People that are non-banks really are not allowed to participate in the Altum program here in Latvia. And the Altum program represents always more than half the marketplace for mortgage lending. So we chose to obtain a broker's license so that we could work with a broader swath of the population. And we have that license, but that all of our resources are there, whether you're a borrowing customer or whether you're a brokerage customer. And it's interesting being in the broker space, because once we're in the broker space, we earn money from commissions paid by the bank. And we don't get paid for nothing that's done. And that makes us very much culturally like a real estate firm who gets paid for success. When the deal is done, they get paid. So culturally, we align pretty well with the real estate community, and we enjoy them and work with them, hopefully effectively. The other nice thing about being a broker is you have a lot of products because you're in front of several banks. We work with large and small banks here in the market. So depending on where you kick out, we'll have a very good opportunity to place you in the best place for you and find the best fit for you. We are a digital end-to-end platform. We're very fast. Well, I'd say if you've done your homework and you come to our platform, we usually have you in the bank that same day, not physically, but digitally. And we're structuring something for you pretty much right away, if not the latest the next day. We're licensed, so the Consumer Financial Protection Center regulates us, and we're licensed, so we're pretty safe to work with both professionally in financial matters, as well as your data and data protection. We're held to the highest standards of data protection. So it's even though it's a digital platform, it's very, very safe. And again, leverage it. There's a lot of data in there, get it. With the real estate community too, we're digital. We have applications that we share information with them. So the communication between us and the realtors is, I believe, nobody can communicate with the real estate community like we do. They have a dashboard in our web app to help track what's going on, and they'll know, they'll follow it. So again, when I talk about a collaborative approach, where they are communicating with each other, and our digital platform allows us to communicate very, very real time and very, very quickly. And as I mentioned before, we send opportunities to them and they send opportunities to us. So it really is actually a very good fit. We really enjoy working with the realtors. We enjoy most of the realtors we work with. And today you're going to meet our favorite. So with that, about the customer journey, and let's see if I've told you everything. I'll just give you some statistics from a foreign survey. The Realtors of California, the Realtor Association of California, had said in a survey a few years ago, they said about 47% of them, compared to 31%, said we prefer working with brokers because they think like we do. They do everything. They've got the whole market. Just like a realtor is going to have the whole market in their line of sight, we have the entire mortgage market in our line of sight. And what they really appreciated, again, it is the choices for the customer and the speed at which things can get done. And I'm going to kind of wrap it at this point, and I'm going to ask Ieva Āboliņa to come and take over for me. So if I can do that, I just have to stop my sharing, right? Wherever I do that. Where would I do that? Right there. Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Ieva Āboliņa, and I'm representing company ERKER Real Estate. I'm the co-owner of the company, and I've been in real estate business almost 10 years. And today I can answer your questions if you have such after presentation. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what questions should the buyer ask or consider when the buyer is looking for the property. And I'll divide it into parts. It will be apartments and houses, private houses. So the most common thing that bothers everyone is what are the utility bills, because utility bills are so different in different buildings. Sometimes maybe the apartment could be cheaper, or apartment could be cheaper, but the rent could be very high, and that's why you should always ask what are the utility bills for the water, heating, electricity, gas, and so on. Also, a very important question is whether the land under the building, apartment building, is in the possession, in the ownership. Today we have a new law which will help the apartment owners to get the land which is not belonging to them in the ownership, and this means that the owners of the apartments, they will be able to buy out the land from the owners that are not apartment owners, if you understand what I'm talking about. And here you should also consider, because for example, if there is a land plot, it's a real case. There's a land plot in Jurmala, for example, which is having high cadastral value, and the building, apartment building, is having only just 10 apartments, and the plot is not big, but it's in a very good place, and so the 10 apartments shall buy out all the land, and it comes 10,000 for each apartment. But somewhere in Purcēns it could be different. For example, there could be a land plot under the building, and there are 105 apartments, and so they divide all the costs between 105 apartments, and that's different cost. Could cost only 5 to 2,000. So it's important when you look for the apartment today. It's a new question which was not raised before. It's important to find out what's possible cost for getting the land plot in your ownership. And then, of course, you should ask the owner if everything is done according to the project, whether the owner has made or not some changes, construction changes, and whether they are accepted by the construction būvvalde. Those who live in Latvia will understand. And also it's important to know what is the form of possession of the apartment, because it could be just shares that you buy, which has a totally different jurisdiction, totally different ownership, and this could be apartment. There are some nuances that are important to understand. It's not that you cannot buy apartments which is in shares, but you have to take in consideration that there should be the papers shall be done in the way that you and your possession is protected. So, and of course, if you talk to the owner of the apartment, it's good to check in the land book if this person is really the owner. And if it's not, whether it has the power of attorney and whether this power of attorney is formed the correct way and everything is really put in there the way that the owner really can make the deal. Sometimes we just get, if it's not checked on the time, we can get to the agreement, but when we have to go to the notary, the power of attorney is not working. So all those nuances, if you have a realtor, the realtor usually knows and helps to understand and helps to check up. Of course, if you drive a car, you'll want to know if there is a parking and what is the infrastructure, whether there are kindergartens and public transportation and shops and all the rest of the things that are important for a comfortable daily life. So when it goes to buying the house, you should pay attention. Some things are the same, like ownership and check up if everything is done according to the project. And what I would suggest for the house, it's better to ask a construction expert that can come and check up the house, whether the technical condition of the house is good, because also it's depends on what materials the house is built, what's the roof, what are the communications. But sometimes you have to be also a little bit aware, because construction experts, they receive the money and they have to show up that they are doing very well their work. And sometimes they find the problems where those are not the problems. They paint it very dark, but those sometimes are not the dark problems. They may be a problem, but they are solvable. And there are no perfect properties. Sometimes the layout is not there. Sometimes you have to put some additional investment, but that's for the private houses. It's important to understand if the technical condition is good, and if it's not, what kind of additional investment is needed for the house. And also it's important to check whether in the rainy days the land plot is not sinking into water. And a very important thing for the private houses is to check up whether the road that you use for getting into your property is in your ownership, or there are municipality ownership, or there are maybe some agreements between the neighbors who own the land where the access road is. And of course, for your own comfort, you have to check and you have to imagine whether this is suiting your family and yours needs, whether there are schools and kindergartens and public transportation, and how will you do it in a daily life. That's enough about the technical nuances, and which I want to finish with just explaining in short what the realtor does. Well, we help bring the parties together. We help to make the deal quick. We help to understand all the steps that need to be taken in order to get the deal done. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be here. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Yours?
Yeah, those are mine. Okay, thank you very, very much, Ieva. I hope you enjoyed that. How, Ieva, you enjoyed it. And now I want to bring a loan professional. She runs all the loan production at Movin. It's Gunta Martemjanova, and she has got experience at a few very good lending shops here in Riga, and she takes care of, and she'll pretty much be from the initial point of contact through. So Gunta?
Good evening. So I will try to tell very briefly why you should use and why it's good to use mortgage brokers versus bank, because maybe in Latvia it's not so popular yet, but I hope it will be much more popular soon. So I made some like bullet points. First of all, help from very beginning. You can start working with mortgage broker in very beginning in your home buying process. In addition to answer your questions about getting a mortgage broker can help you to get ready for this process, gathering all the documents, all information what you need to apply a mortgage, as well as will help you understand how much you can afford actually, and it will be best for you. Second, customize the system. It's suppose you are not a very easy customer for bank, so you have some circumstances that requires more explanation. For example, some gaps in employment, some issues with your credit history, for example, or not very ordinary income structure. In that case, mortgage broker may be able to help you find lender for you, maybe who are appropriate for your situation, or properly explain your situation advantages for regular banks. Then, of course, access to several lenders. Instead to apply for 4 or 5 lenders, you can apply only for mortgage broker, and mortgage broker will find the best option for you. It's one reason. Maybe second, what I know from experience, sometimes customers was in several banks, and then they were confused about so many information, so different information that they received from banks, and they asked to just help me understand how much I can afford and what I can do next. So yeah, convenience and time saving, of course. Getting a mortgage is time intensive process. Even after doing all due diligence and find the right bank for you, it's in the actual application and closing process are intense with lots of back and forth and requests for documents and additional information. A good mortgage broker will save you your time and stress in this situation. Yeah, and but we already told service is for free. This service is for free. Some customers asking me how it can be, but why banks are ready to pay for mortgage broker? Because banks, we work for banks like customer filter is one option, because we are sending only customers which they like, and secondary we are saving loan officers time too, doing some services and working in all this process with customers. So briefly, it's like all from me. Thank you, and I'm ready for your questions too.
Okay, I think we're going to get some questions. Is that correct? We have some questions.
Yes, the voice from the voice from above has some questions. So the first question is, what is the number one thing that messes up a credit history?
I think, the most surprising one to me, the one that most people don't think of, is that if you don't pay your parking tickets, that goes right to your credit history. And there's a lot of people are shocked when they find out they have a poor credit score. And when you tell them why, it's because, well, you have a few unpaid parking tickets. So I think that that's the biggest surprise. I'm not sure if that's the biggest thing.
It's not the biggest thing if it's 1, 2, like the parking tickets. If it's 10 and more, that it's it's not. But maybe it's if it's happened some issues several times, and it's not like one period in life when it was such like period when something happened, but it's like behavior to forget time to time about your payments. That's the number one issue.
Yeah, I have heard something about like a 2-year period for credit history. Is there anything like that?
Approximately 2-3 years.
The second question is, what are the benefits of using a broker?
So I already explained. It was 4 or 5. It's service. It's help in our process. So even for not easy bank customers.
I think too, I mentioned that, I touched on it briefly, why we work well with realtors, because of they're both commission driven. So success, you have to have success. What that does is that points us that we work for the customer, right? We're actually working for the customer. If you're a bank loan officer, you actually are working for a credit mechanism, and your job is to try to express it properly and filter and get everything done. But you're not really what anybody in the modern world would recognize as empowered. And what a broker is going to do is they're going to look not just at the credit behind this loan officer, they're going to look at the credit appetite at several places, because they're all different. They're absolutely, every bank focuses on different things. And it seems subtle and slight, but it winds up coming into play. And especially if things like you own your own business, that's huge. If you have some foreign income, you work in the UK or something, it's huge. The different banks have different, and the different credit risk officers have different views about things. And what happens is some of it they can articulate and some of it they can't. And so what with us, with that experience, working with them every day, day in and day out, we actually know it. Usually we know their credit appetite better than they know their credit appetite. And so I think that's the benefit of a broker, is that if a broker says you're not ready yet, if we tell you you're not ready yet, that's because across several risk officers across town, we just don't know where you're going to get done. And we go from the smallest banks that take some bigger risks to the biggest banks that want very, very easy risks. So that's, I think from working with a broker, and again, I'm going to throw another fact, and that is that in the United States, and typically you're 60% of all people looking for a mortgage go right to a broker. They never go to the bank because they know the person sitting in the bank is not empowered to tell them anything except take information. And usually you have to talk to someone who's not an expert first, and they filter you, and then maybe they pass you to a loan officer. So again, working with a broker saves you at least one step in the bank and probably multiple steps, because while the bank loan officers will learn their own credit appetite and they will be able to recognize maybe pretty quickly whether you can get done or whether it won't get done, you're not going to get to that loan officer and you're not going to be giving them enough information quickly. Whereas again, in our digital platform, we're pretty quick. We're very quick, actually. So those have, I would say, that's what I would say beyond what you would say.
Yeah, and I just continue that sometimes it's not like just getting credit, but sometimes it's like getting better rate, because we know what is good for bank, what maybe some right questions that we should ask to customer, and help them get better.
Okay, thank you. Then there is question that's actually like 3 questions, but I think all of them together make the most sense. So the question is: so is now the right time to buy in Riga? Are prices expected to go up? Which districts of Riga are on the rise?
Question for me, I guess. Yes. Okay, so I guess prices have been up, and I think it will continue growing, because there are a lot of good signs for that, and some maybe not that good, as construction costs are going up, and inflation is behind the corner. So a lot of people are a bit afraid to keep their money in the pockets, so they want to invest. And that's also is driving the market. So the market is going up, and I think it will continue if there's a good healthy economy, and everybody is already feeling more or less used to with the COVID thing. What was the most popular area? Yeah. Is it the center asked, or the sleeping areas? The center has been always popular area, and especially the quiet center, or the, as we call it, business center, which is a little bit smaller square than the whole center. The old town has always been popular. Yes, this Airbnb business is going down now, but I think this old town will never lose its popularity in the long term. And if we talk about sleeping areas, then the most popular are Kurtiems and Teika. And we see in those areas the prices have been up, and the average price in the Soviet type of building has already reached 1,000 euros in some cases. And if there's a good renovation done, sometimes it's 1,300 and sometimes even a bit more, depending on the built-ins. And it's also because the overall value of if we compare the typical building of Soviet type of time with building newly constructed, then this gap between the prices, like for example, two room, the 1 bedroom, which we call in Latvia 2 room, is the smaller amount you could buy in like 50,000-60,000, you can buy apartment, but in new development, it's not less than 90,000, for example. They answer all the questions?
I think so, yes. So the next question that I think is kind of like a natural build-up on this one is how, Gunta, you talked about it a little bit, but can you maybe give some general tips of how to understand how much a person can afford? And then kind of also a follow-up question, but I think you can answer both of them together, is that it's a lot of money that Ieva was mentioning. So how to get the money, how to save, maybe some tips.
How to save? Okay.
Start to save when you're 5.
Yeah. Yeah, about it's first question, second was about the savings and
How to understand how much you can afford. So how much you have to save.
how much it's again you should go you should come to us, and then we will help with each situation, because it's different. It's from 5 till somewhere 20% down payment should be from the cost of property. So it depends on the situation. And about saving, if you are not renting apartment or a house yet, so one of our advices is to try to like calculate in a regular calculator, credit calculator, how it is, how much it will be approximately or monthly payment for credit, and you can start like just save this money each month.
In Europe, and it's not much different than North America, it's the average to save for a down payment is usually about 33 months. So the customer journey, it can be quite long. And Gunta, just this spring, was doing loans that the customers first approached her about 18 months earlier. And I think they approached her in 2019, there might have been even 2018. And she closed loans for them here in 2021.
Mhm.
So they were saving up, and there's a lot of different tools. Well, we want to add actually some links to some robo-advisors, so that there's a few more tools that people get familiar with for savings. But most of the banks have either between saving or deposit products or investment products. They'll have a mix of the things that might fit that savings period.
Okay, and then one more question, and you touched upon that, but maybe just briefly once again. So what are the benefits of using a broker?
I answered it once already.
Yeah, this is like maybe this customized assistance and helping how to understand in each step of this process. Even it's very beginning, or it's like confusing after several consultations in banks. So, like help. Sometimes it's like help to understand what you should do for qualifying for credit. It's so many reasons. No. And of course it's time saving and stress saving to use mortgage. No.
I do worry about the customer, and I think bank loan officers worry about the credit officer. And it's just different priorities.
Okay, so how?
Add up a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
No, it's just, I think for customer, it's much easier when you go to one stop instead of 5 stops, for example. If you go to one stop with these guys, then you get all the offers at once. And what we are not all the experts of contracts of the loan contracts, yes, and there are experts who have been in business for a very, very long time. And I think they'll give the best advice because all of these bank contracts has these little letters. And they are really experts who will help you understand what's really in the contract and where's your advantages and where are your disadvantages. Am I right?
Yes.
Is that what you do?
We're gonna use you in our advertisement now. I hope they're filming this.
Okay, so one more question is how fast my loan application can be approved?
If it's all okay, it's not 2 days.
Quick.
We're digital. We're gathering all the information from all the digital sources instantly, or web application. So it's just a question of following up on some of the more detailed documents that might be necessary. And I'll tell you, last month, I think it was last month, might have been the month before, Gunta had a string of loans that she got the application in and she got it to the bank in the same day.
Okay,
It's normal.
very nice. So there are no more questions. So I'll leave it up to you guys to close.
Thank you very much for listening and being here with us.
Thank you very, very much. Visit us at movin.lv and
ERKER Real Estate. Bet vienkāršāk būs ERKER nekustamie īpašumi.
okay. Thank you all. We're done. Paula, are we done? We're done.